Welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Thursday, November 14th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're tracking here for today as big tropic changes. We are expecting Sarah, but probably not likely to see a hurricane. I'll explain why here in just a second. And, as all weather's kind of connected like a set of dominoes, because we're not going to get that hurricane, don't think we're going to get our blizzard either. We're going to still get some snow, but not expecting the big snowstorm. It's amazing how model runs can change from one day to the next. And boy, they change big time, and we'll get into great detail on that on this edition. And then finally, we're still tracking that cold air. Don't worry, that's still coming as well, especially for the folks across the eastern half of the United States who have been kind of inundated with a very warm and above normal fall for the most part. All right, before we get into this, first I do want to thank the new subscribers here to the channel. And if you have not yet subscribed, I invite you to personally hit that subscribe button right now. It's free. Go ahead and do it. Just click that button. Go ahead and hit that notification tab so you alert on future content. And as always, if you appreciate this report, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below, as it does help with the almighty YouTube algorithm. It's a tyrant. Trust me, it is. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at our latest satellite imagery as we're watching our storm system impacting the eastern third of the United States, seeing the rains from areas of toward the Great Lakes and moving into the northeast, stretching back into the southeast. Middle of the country, fairly quiet, a little bit chilly out there. We'll take a look at those readings here in a second. And another storm system out here on the west coast, quite across Texas, back into Southern California. How about what we're looking at as far as watches and warnings? Well, we do have some winter weather up into Maine. We've got some fog up here into the Dakotas, and we got some more winter weather advisories here across the Sierra Nevada, California here. A couple of winter storm warnings up there in Washington as well. But overall, most of the country pretty quiet here on your Thursday. All right, let's look at our surface map here. Again, it's chilly here in the middle of the country. Got a lot of 20s and 30s, but these are going to be a lot colder here, folks, especially over the next 7 to 10 days as we get some progressively cold air to kind of move in here. Cold out here into the Intermountain region as well. So here's the rains from Seattle coming down into Portland, Oregon here for this morning, even get into Northern California. Some plain old-fashioned cold rain across the areas of the mid-Atlantic. You see the cold temperatures there in the 30s and 40s with that rain. That's just kind of a nasty, nasty day to say the least. And the rain stretch all the way back up here into the UP of Michigan as well here on your Thursday. Now, the rain here, tracking this across Metro Atlanta, we had some pretty heavy downpours in yours truly's house. I'm up here in northeast Metro Atlanta. And it looks like this range will be finally pulling on out. Usually getting rain into Metro Atlanta on a rush hour morning is not a good thing. And it's definitely been a bit of a mess out there for today. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center. Let's go ahead and see what they're expecting as far as thunderstorm activity here for today. And it's really not looking that bad. All we're seeing is there's a slight marginal risk here just right along the coast here into Carolinas, but really that's about it. And you got a general thunderstorm threat here as well out here on the west coast as well. But overall, really not looking that bad. In fact, this is going to be the theme here over the next few days. So this is your Thursday. Well, how about Friday? How's Friday looking here? Pretty quiet. All we're seeing on Friday is just a little sliver here over here on the Carolina coast, so maybe a few rumbles of thunder. That's about it. And then as far as our day 3 outlook is concerned, well, we start to get another storm system here in the middle of the country. But again, just looking at just a general thunderstorm threat. So no severe weather expected here over the next 3 days going from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So some good news there. We get a little bit of a break from some of the active weather. Now, as far as the climate outlook is concerned, looking out beyond that, looking at the climate hazards going out for day 3 through 7, gets a little more active here in the middle of the country. We could be seeing some heavier rains, obviously, out here with our next storm system. We get some heavy precip out on the west coast. You notice the brown, that is indicative of some gusty winds. I think that's going to be kind of part of that cold air mass that's going to be kind of making its presence felt here across the high plains. And eventually, it's going to be pushing off into the eastern third of the United States. So folks there can finally get to cool down just a little bit. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the tropics, okay? Now, we're waiting on Sarah. That's our next named storm here. And, yesterday, this time, both the European and the GFS were both showing, hey, we're going to get a hurricane. Looks like South Florida. Oh, better watch out for this. And usually when you see both models agree like that, you're like, okay, looks like we've got some pretty good confidence on that. But boy, did it change big time as we went into yesterday's model runs in the afternoon, where basically the high pressure that was setting up, that's steering this thing, a little bit stronger and was placed a little bit further to the west. So as a result of that, we're getting steered closer to the coastline, and then we kind of stay over land a lot longer. So as a result of its interaction with the land, we're away from that warm waters. You're just not going to get your big storm there. The water temperatures, as we've shown repeatedly, 85 to 87 degrees, plenty warm out there. But again, if the center circulation is interacting with land, you're just not going to get anything to develop. So this thing should remain a tropical storm for the most part for its duration. Right now, still officially just a tropical depression right now. You see the thunderstorms there just off the Central American coast, off Belize there, and looking just off to the east of Belize. And it looks like we're going to see that continue to move up toward the north. And now it's going to have an impact as far as rains coming into Florida and Georgia. It's going to enhance that rain as that moisture gets shoved up with a cold front that's going to pick it up. So we'll have an impact. It's just not going to be a hurricane. And that is some very good news because, you know, I posted the update yesterday. You know, Florida's had enough. They have definitely had enough. So here's the outlook here. You can see the track here as you look at the ensemble tracks here as it's steering it into the Gulf and then moving up toward the north and east. So areas here across South Georgia and Florida are probably going to be looking at the enhancement of the heavier rains because of that moisture coming up with that front. Notice that only one model really is taking it up back up to a hurricane, but for the most part, the majority of the models are keeping it all as a tropical storm for the duration of this system for what will be Sarah briefly and shouldn't be a hurricane. So that is some very good news there. Again, looking at the ECENS ensemble models, you can see that plot. All of them are pretty much in agreement here, again, of tracking the system through the Yucatan and then making that turn up toward the north and east. Again, the water temperatures over the Gulf are significantly cooler. They're cooling down, so not going to get the opportunity to get some rapid development there as that thing continues to move up toward the north and then eventually to the northeast as it gets picked up by that approaching trough. Now, with that said, I do want to go ahead and talk about some different things here. I do want to take a look at several different models here. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's go ahead and talk about what the European is showing here. As a look at the European model here, as what we're seeing is, again, a system that's going to just have a really hard time getting itself together. So you see it kind of pulling in there right along the coastal area. It gets stuck for a little while and then eventually moves over land. And then it kind of loses its course. We can't even see it out here. We see the lower pressure out there, but it's basically just a conglomerate of moisture that's going to get picked up by that big cold front coming in from the west and kind of jumps it right on out and boom, it's gone. So that's what the European model is showing. The American GFS model is showing a similar solution as this moves on in, and then it just kind of, again, just kind of falls apart. You really can't see it. See a little bit what's left of it kind of across into Florida right there. We'll stop right there going into Wednesday morning. So right in here, that's what's left of what should be Sarah at that point, or tropical depression, whatever's left of the system at that point. It's just going to enhance that rain. It's going to be some very heavy rains coming in across Florida and South Georgia with the system, and then it kind of exits on out. So that's some good news for today for the folks there in Florida. So again, we're going to talk about the upper level winds, what's causing this. Watch the big high pressure system roll over the top of this thing. There's our high. This is our high as on Monday here. This is our steering mechanism. So it's a little bit further to the west, so it is steering the system to go this way as that high moves on in, and it's going to keep that thing out over land and not over the ocean. So it's pushing it into the land, and then it goes up into the Gulf of Mexico. So that is what's driving our train there. Now, as far as our precipitation is concerned, we're going to break this down here a little bit. Okay, so as we look at this, we're seeing the rains here coming across the southeast. This is what we're expecting here for Thursday and into your Friday. So you're looking at wet weather here across the mid-Atlantic that'll continue into early Friday morning before it kind of exits out. And then this upcoming weekend, really not looking all that bad. Okay, so Saturday throughout the day, most of the country not looking bad, other than the fact we got a little rain out here on the west coast. But Saturday, this weekend, looking very nice indeed. And then we'll wait for our next system to develop as we go into late in the day on Sunday. You see that energy kicking out of the southwest. So as we get into the overnight Sunday into Monday, we'll see the rains increasing here across Texas and into areas of New Mexico. And we're also seeing rains out here on the west coast as well as we go in toward the 18th. So going into the Monday the 18th there, this will track into the middle of the country. It'll stay plain old rain, still plenty warm here. Now, what's happened, because we don't have the big hurricane going up, we're not intensifying the trough here. Usually when you get a hurricane, you're getting ridging out ahead of it. We're not going to get a big dip in the jet stream that was going to take this system and spin it up into something a lot stronger. That's what was showing yesterday when we thought we were going to get a blizzard out of this thing. That's not going to happen. Now, we're still going to get some snow out of this as this eventually will spin off, and then we got another piece of energy behind it, this one here, going into late in the day on Wednesday. So this is the 20th here about 7, 8 o'clock. There'll be this system that'll track some snows up this way, also across the area, but again, not a blizzard. We're just talking just plain old snows on the back end of this thing, tracking through portions of Kansas, going through Iowa, This is my freezing line right back here. So that is this back part of this will be on the snow side, and then this will track off toward the north and east. And then here's the big change, the delay, and I've been saying this for a while. Always thought it was going to be Thanksgiving week that we get the real push of cold air. Originally, a couple days ago, we were tracking maybe around the 20th, 21st. That looks like that's being pushed back. Why? Again, we're not getting that hurricane in there to have that influence there. So now it looks like this cold air is going to come in as we head toward the first week of Thanksgiving. So this is going into Sunday, the Sunday prior to Thanksgiving. We see the cold air coming down here. Look at this is the 540 line. This is the freezing line coming down here. Some very cold air coming down here across the Great Lakes and into the south. That's when this will kind of move on in. And then it kind of takes on this. I'm going to go and take this all the way out to Thanksgiving. I don't normally go out that far, but since we're getting this close, I'll go ahead and do that. So again, you're seeing the cold air here going in throughout the day on Monday. And then as we go in toward Thanksgiving Day here, looking not too bad here. It starts to modify a little bit. But then one thing I do notice is we got some really low Arctic air up here into Canada to watch as we go into December. We'll see if that kind of continues to pile up there. I used to think of a cold air kind of like a bowl of water. You take some water, you start filling that bowl up. Eventually, it's going to spill over, and I think that's what we're going to end up seeing here eventually as we go in toward the end of November, and especially going into December. We'll get one little nice little shot, little hit and run, and I think we may get a bigger one going into December. So here's our precipitation. Here's our rain over the next couple days here. Going throughout the day on Thursday and Friday across the areas of the south, obviously getting into the Ohio River Valley and the Mid-Atlantic getting rain. Obviously, the West Coast will continue with its active pattern here with the wet weather as well. As we go and track this on through, as we wait for that next storm system, weekend again is pretty quiet until we start seeing things begin to kick up down here with that next system kicking out of the southwest. So as this kicks out of the southwest, boom, here comes the rain coming on in. Yeah, coming on right in through Oklahoma, into Kansas, Nebraska. And again, this will track up this way on into your Friday. That Thursday, Friday system, that's the one that'll be dumping our snows there as we head in toward the 21st and 22nd. And then I'll take this on out to about there. Well, we won't take it all the way up to the end, but there you see it's pretty good rains there across the middle of the country here, the Gulf Coast here. That's that enhanced rain threat, obviously, from that tropical system. And then we got that active weather pattern on the West Coast where that continues to get bombarded with the heavy rains there. Let's talk about the snows. Let's look at that. Again, this is taking out toward going towards Saturday. Back this up once again here. So we get some snows here across the west here, across the higher elevations, obviously through the weekend. Then as we go into next week, boom, here comes. The system starts to kick out on Wednesday. So this is the snows on Wednesdays here across New Mexico as this thing will kind of kick on out here into the plains. So as we watch that system very closely here, boom, here comes pretty heavy snows across Texas, getting into Kansas, and into Iowa, and into Wisconsin. So we're not getting that big snowstorm. And they were still showing it on the 12Z run yesterday on the European model, but that is backed off significantly there as we'll see that snow kind of move on off. So this is our snow corridor here going into the week of Thanksgiving. So I want to watch that closely. Obviously, people travel, they're on the road, so we want to we'll be watching that very closely there for the week of Thanksgiving. That could impact some of the travel plans there across the central portion of the country. Now, as far as temperatures are concerned, we're looking at the 5,000 millibar, we're looking at 5,000 feet, 850 millibar level here on this, as we're going to be tracking the progress of the cold air. Now, you see the below normal, that greens and blues out here on the West Coast, very mild relative to this time of year across the middle of the country, obviously coming into this weekend as we go in toward the 15th and into the 16th. Now, as we continue to track this, you notice we continue to still hold that pattern. We've been seeing most of the fall, where we're seeing that very below normal temperatures out here in the west, still looking pretty mild here relatively here in the east, and that continues into the early portion of Monday. Now, what has changed from yesterday is yesterday we were showing a big push here on the 21st of this kind of stuff kind of moving into the southeast. It's still kind of lingering back here a little bit. All right, still holding back toward the west just a tad. Now, as we go forward, eventually this will start to push off toward the east, but now it's kind of moving more toward the 22nd or so. Look at what's happening up here in the high plains. We got a shot of cold air coming out here out of Canada. It's going to give this thing a push and finally move it over, but it's going to kind of go more into Sunday now, delaying it by a couple of days, and this will push off, boom, into the south. And look at that, by the time we get it toward Monday, again, Thanksgiving week, you got some very cold, frigid air here across the high plains coming into the southeast and getting the eastern third. We start to modify things a little bit out here in the west, because of that cold shot coming down across the eastern third of the United States. And it looks like, for the most part, for Thanksgiving week, I don't know why I want to keep saying Christmas, but for Thanksgiving week, we're looking at temperatures here staying below average for most of the east, definitely modified out here in the west. And as I take this all the way out here to the end of this model run, and I'm only doing this because I just want to highlight something here, look at this very frigid air up here in Canada here, going up toward the 28th. Again, this is 360 hours out, folks, so it's going to change, but I've looked for forecasting trends here. But the one trend I do see is once that cool air starts to pull off, we see temperatures begin to modify a bit here as we got high pressure here across the south. We see a warm up, but boy, if this thing makes a charge down, that could be some of the definitely very, very cold air going into the end of November and going into the first week of December. Let's break down by the temperatures here. Again, I took this out to the 21st. Remember, we were tracking this for a few days where we thought we were going to see some very cold temperatures here across the eastern third of the United States. We're still holding it at pretty much the 50s and 60s for morning lows here across the southeast. Relatively chilly here across the northeast. Not bad, but still a little above average for this time of year. But here we can bring in the cold air, kind of finally comes on in as we head toward Thanksgiving week. I keep wanting to say Christmas. I don't know why. So here comes the cold air coming in for the 20s and 30s. And again, this will move on out here. And again, look at Tuesday morning. Boy, we're even seeing some single digits back here toward Iowa here a little bit. You got 20s here in the deep south across the Ohio River Valley as well and into the northeast. So this looks like a very chilly day, and I think it's up to Wednesday morning too. We'll go to Wednesday morning here. One more, but you can see very chilly here. 20s all the way down into South Georgia here and into the Ohio River Valley. Very, very chilly indeed. Let's take a look at the western U.S. here for a flip side of this. Let me clear that out. And we'll back this up again and watch the temperatures here. Again, progressively getting colder. That is the trend here. You see the purples there. When you see more of that purple, you know you're talking about some cold air. When you see the whites there, that's getting temperatures down near zero across portions of Colorado. And then really starts to kick in as we head toward next week. So look at these areas out here on Wednesday, the 20th. You're seeing a lot of single digits out here as some of this cold air is going to eventually spill over to the east as we go in toward past Wednesday next week. That starts to push off toward the east. And as it does so, you clearly see it beginning to modify out here. Not nearly as cold as that cold air begins to push off toward the east there a little bit as we head toward the 25th, heading toward Monday. And that'll be the trend continuing and through Thanksgiving week. So you guys there in the west will get a little bit of a break, just a little, from the very cold air, as a lot of that will be pushing off toward the east. And then we'll see what happens up here. Again, look at the tail end of this model run here. These are below zero temperatures all up in here. So again, we'll see what happens going toward, we wrap up November to see if that true Arctic air is going to make a progress down toward the south. All right, let's look now at the climate outlook. This has changed a little bit as well. Looking here from November 19th to the 23rd, we're looking at warmer temperatures or milder weather here in the east, colder in here in the west, but we're starting to chip away at it. We're starting to chip away at it, and then boom, look at this. Below normal temperatures across the southeast, finally getting in there. Getting a bit of a breakout here on the west coast as temperatures modify, and that's what the models were showing there. Again, we're talking the 21st to the 27th, so just the day before Thanksgiving. Still holding on to relatively above normal temperatures there across areas of the northeast. Precipitation-wise, we'll stay active here in the east. We're going to get a chance to dry out here a little bit in the west. They could probably deserve a little bit of a break. They've been so active out here in the west with the precipitation. And looks like we'll dry things out a little bit going from the 21st to the 27th across the southern tier. Starts to get more active here into California and a little bit above normal there across the northern portion of the United States. As we go into Thanksgiving week, I know we got a lot of folks that are going to be traveling that week. So yours truly is going to keep a very watchful eye on that to see how the storm systems are involved and see if they're going to have any impact on your travel plan. So if you'd like to continue to get these kind of updates in your YouTube feed, the best way I can advise you to do that is please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And as always, I do appreciate you guys supporting the channel with everything you do, the comments, the thumbs up, and the feedback. I truly do appreciate it. All right, that's going to do it here for your Thursday morning. We'll see you back in here again for tomorrow's edition for your next update. Until then, be good, stay safe, and we're going to see you next time. Bye, guys.